Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a first perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is it time for the Clippers to hit, or for the Clippers to hit the panic button? So that's the topic I want to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, check out our Dreamerspro Premium community. Dreamerspro Max is an online sports community that we created for you guys. It's a place where you can go and start basketball discussions and also NFL discussions and other sports. Chat live during games, which is something we do virtually every night, it seems. Consume original content that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else, and do so many other cool things. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to check it out and get 7 days of free access. We have it linked in the description below, so make sure you go ahead and check that out. So let me get into this video here. So first of all, I saw the game last night, and I have a bunch of different thoughts, and I'm most likely, it seems like usually on this channel, we usually have kind of a different take than what other people say in the mainstream media. It usually seems to be a negative take, and with the exception of Skip Bayless, when the team does poorly, Skip Bayless just kind of seems to write it off. But for me, I'm going to give you guys a different take because I'm telling you exactly what I think. So I saw the game last night, which made me think about the team overall this season. Now, we all know that the Clippers started off the season very well. We all knew this, right? Given the fact of how they ended their season in the Orlando bubble last year, blowing a 3-1 lead. We remember that. They opened up the season getting 2 solid wins against the 2 top teams, currently the teams that are leading them in the Western Conference, in the Los Angeles Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets is a team that actually they lost to last season. They picked up a very important piece and replaced Montrezl Harrell with Serge Ibaka, who was a very important acquisition. And we were able to see the impact of Serge Ibaka initially when they started the season, because they had better floor spacing. He could pick and roll, pick and pop, play defense, protected the rim. So the addition of Serge Ibaka, his impact was felt immediately. We had a hidden gem in Nicholas Batum, under the radar pickup that was picked up by management, who just seems to be a glue guy. If you saw the game last night, you heard Jeff Van Gundy say the same thing. He's a glue guy. He's a very smart guy, very great playmaker. Can make great decisions. He can play defense. He can hit the open 3. So they picked him up, and his impact was felt immediately. And also we saw that we knew that Paul George was on a mission to prove his doubters wrong, and he started off the season very, very hot. For the first 2 months of the season, the Clippers looked at times as the best team in the NBA for the first 2 months, because they had some very, very impressive wins, especially when they went on that road trip, when they lost their 2 players, their best players before the road trip, went out there and really won a difficult game in Miami. So the Clippers showed that they were back this season and ready to have a good season. Their 2 key players, the 2 best players in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, at one time were virtually having 50-40-90 seasons together. They were both having, Kawhi Leonard was having a career high, and both Paul George a career high in as far as assists this year. So they were looking very, very good. But then what started to happen, right? The thing that affects every team in the NBA, injuries started to happen, and the injuries started to compile. Of all the key players that the Clippers have, starters included, I'm talking about starters, they've missed a combined 40 games right now. As we're currently doing this video, Patrick Beverley is not even available. Remember, Patrick Beverley was injured going into All-Star break. The first game he got back after the All-Star break, the first game, I think in the first quarter, he had a bruised knee or something like that. He's been gone ever since. Serge Ibaka has missed the last 2 games, right? So I believe the root of their problems for the Clippers started once the injury started to compile again. It's hard to build continuity when your guys are always injured. The lack of continuity has a lot to do with players not being available. Now, it could also be that you have your key players there, and then you guys are not playing well. That's understandable. But when you have key role players on your team that are missing, like a point guard or a center, that affects your rhythm. And I think that's one of the reasons, one of the problems that they're having. The fact that they also don't have a great point guard to begin with. Let's just overlook the fact that they don't have Patrick Beverley at the moment. The fact that they don't have a great point guard is making it difficult for the team to generate easier shots. As you saw last night, primarily the playmaking and ball handling is in the hands of Kawhi Leonard or Paul George. And at times you saw Paul George, early in the season he was making some great plays, but in the last few games Paul George has been terrible with the ball. He's been a turnover machine. You saw the game last night. He had a lot of unforced turnovers, which is something that's affecting them. Another thing, let's talk about the fact that they don't have Serge Ibaka in the lineup, right? We were discussing this in the chat yesterday, and they were like, I think one of us said, I think it was Mark, he said something to the effect of, is Zoo better than Serge? Is Zoo start over Serge? And I said Serge Ibaka is a much better center for this team than Ivica Zubac. Why? Because Serge, apart from the fact that he plays defense and he's a smart player, Serge Ibaka provides great spacing for the Clippers because he's able to draw out the bigs of opposing teams. That's one of the things that they were able to do earlier in the season. That's one of the things that Tyronn Lue spoke about. That's one of the upgrades Serge Ibaka gives them over Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl Harrell was an exclusively pick and roll player, but given the fact that Serge stretches the floor all the way to the mid range, all the way out to the 3-point line, then opposing bigs cannot anchor. They can't just anchor themselves in the paint and clog up the lane. Serge Ibaka would have pulled a lot of those bigs out, which now increases the ability of their guards and their forwards to drive and penetrate. It's very hard for these guys to score at the basket when it's always congested. Every time you look at the Clippers drive into the basket, you'll notice that Zoo is always there. So the lane is always congested, which one makes it hard for them to finish oversized. Number one, it's already hard to finish in the basket in the NBA anyway, but then to try to finish oversized, not just the size of the opposing big, but also your big is also there. So the lane is clogged. So it's making it harder for them to get easier lanes to the basket. Number one. Number two, it also affects their 3-point shooting. Some of you say, but how does Serge Ibaka not being in the game affect their 3-point shooting? Well, if their guards and their power forwards cannot dribble penetrate, right? If they can't dribble penetrate, it's going to be hard for them to get easier threes, get better looks for the 3-point shooters, on the perimeter, right? Because the whole purpose of dribbling and penetrating the defense is to tilt the defense. But if you can't do that, then you're left with scenarios where they're always trying to swing the ball around the perimeter, the key, let's say. And when they do that, it's easier for defenses to kind of key in on certain guys. And if they're quick on their feet, they can just get to the open shooters, right? But if guys can penetrate, collapse the defense, kick the open shooters, then things are going to be better. And the only way for you to do that, you need to be able to get in the lane, and the lane cannot be congested. And given the fact that Serge Ibaka has not been in the lineup, their spacing has been totally messed up. Just watch the games. From a technical standpoint, you see that the Clippers, is very hard for them to generate clean looks. Clean looks from the 3-point line, right? It's so much more difficult. And this all has to do with the fact that Serge Ibaka is not there. So, because of that, listen, I think the Clippers, I don't think it's time to hit the panic button. But what I think needs to happen is that the Clippers need to start getting healthy, right? The players need to get healthy. Patrick Beverley has not been playing. That's the problem. Serge Ibaka is out of the lineup. That's the problem. You're missing 2 starters. You're not just missing bench players. These are starters on your team that you need. The Clippers are having a problem building continuity because their key players are not available. And if they're not available, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to win games. It's going to be very difficult. It's not just a thing of, the novice will say, well, you have Paul George, you have Kawhi Leonard, so that should be enough. Well, basketball is a team sport, right? Paul George and Kawhi can only do so many things, but you need certain key players to make the offense work. And if you're missing role players, then what's the purpose of even bringing anybody else out? Just bring out Kawhi Leonard and Paul George since they're good enough. No, it doesn't work like that. Certain pieces need to be there. You saw the issue the Lakers were having with winning games. They brought back Dennis Schroeder, who's a great ball handler. He's a decision maker, another scorer. Then you see things become a little bit easier for LeBron. It's not just enough to say, oh, well, LeBron is there, so that should be enough. No. That's a very simplistic way of looking at a basketball. So the Clippers need these players to come back. Right. So I'm not ready to hit the panic button. And I think the panic button is going to be, let's say the panic button is going to be, what's the word I'm looking for here? Whether or not you decide to hit the panic button is going to be solely based on your expectations for the Clippers. If you expect the Clippers right now to have the number 1 seed in the NBA or the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, then yes, it's time to hit the panic button. If you're playing a longer game, then it's not. right? If you're saying, listen, I'm a little bit concerned, but I have some concerns, but I'm not willing to panic, then you may say, listen, I'm not willing to hit the panic button, but I think they need to make some changes, right? Do the Clippers need to make a move? I think they do. But to be quite honest with you, I don't know the specific move that they need to make, because it's not even clear to me what they really are right now, because they don't even have all of their players. They don't even have all of their players available to them right now. So it's not like as if they're playing at full strength and we're looking at the team and we're saying, okay, listen, this team is simply not good enough. We can't even make that judgment. All I know is that early in the season, when guys were healthy, when guys were available, they were playing very well. Now, maybe obviously their concentration may have waned, maybe their focus may have dissipated a little bit. Sure, those things happen during the regular season, the doldrums of regular season. We understand that things begin to get a little bit monotonous throughout the regular season. But I'm not ready to hit the panic button as of yet, because remember, the inconsistency is one thing, right? We all understand that inconsistency is a problem, but then you have to go deeper and understand, okay, what's causing this inconsistency to take place? The Dallas Mavericks that they just lost to by, I think it was 15 points, if I'm not mistaken, 89 to 105, 15 or 16 points, if I'm not mistaken. They just beaten them 2 nights prior. So it comes down to, what Clipper team do you believe you're looking at? Are they the Clipper team that beat the Mavs, or are they the Clipper team that lost to the Mavs? It all depends on the way you decide to look at things. Now, for me, what I think is they need to get healthy, and they need to get some key pieces back. I don't think the Clippers go through all of this if for example, they had Serge but they lost Lou, because I've seen that happen before. I've seen them play without Lou and have Serge, and they played very well and they won games, right? But you're missing Serge Ibaka, and he's a very important piece. And you're also missing your best point guard defender. And I told you, Reggie Jackson and Lou Williams these guys are not the answer. So for me, I think it's a little bit too soon to hit the panic button. But there's some things that need to be ironed out. There's some issues percolating, and I think one of them has to do with injury. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you think it's time to hit the panic button? If you do think so, let me know why you think so. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamers Pro, wishing you guys an amazing day. Catch you guys on the next episode.